Winning's fun. It changes everything in your life, and losing absolutely stinks. You go into a team meeting and everybody gets to play and everybody's happy and life's good and very few are in the training room, and after a loss, everything's totally opposite. People are down and they're frustrated, and it is amazing that one kick or one fumble can make that much difference in your life when you play 3.5 hours, but it sure does. So proud of the guys, proud of the way they played. Even more emotional that we did honor and appreciate, make more awareness for cancer. It was pretty emotional all week for Ty Lee to be involved like he always is, but to be front and center. And it's really special for him, and even more unique that it was his 21st birthday. It was funny, I told the team yesterday that you can say to Ty Lee, I know how you feel. I don't. I don't have cancer. So I can't imagine getting a call that says that you've got cancer. I can't imagine going back for a checkup with a doctor wondering about how that scan's gonna look. I just can't imagine that, and especially at 21 years old. And I got emotional after the game some, but I lost a brother last year to cancer. I've lost a mother to cancer. I've got a daughter that's had cancer and come out on the positive side, and I've got a wife that had cancer and came out on the positive side. So it does matter to you out there that have cancer, and we do care. We don't understand. Sally always told me it's interesting when people know you're sick, they don't know what to say. So do you ask about it? Do you not ask about it? And she always said that people want you to care. So you that have cancer, we do care. And we do pray for you and want you to get better. But again, when you haven't had it, it's hard to say, I know how you feel. I know how British Brooks feels. I've had 8 knee operations and 2 knee replacements. So when a young guy on our team gets hurt and can't play, I've been there. I have done that. So I can help him because I know exactly how he feels. I don't know how Ty Lee feels. But it was fun to watch Ty Lee dance in the locker room. He took my place, and it was a fun moment for him. I was sad that because of the storm, his mom couldn't be here. But thank you to all that reached out for him and acknowledged him, and that made the win even more special because the guys said they really wanted to hand him the game ball in the locker room after the game, and that was a special moment for all of us. Offensive player of the game was Drake May. He continues to impress us with everything he does, and he can still get better. He was frustrated with a few throws that he missed. We didn't start right in that first series, or I would have gone for the 4th and 1, 4th and 2, whatever it was at the first of the game, but I just didn't think we were in sync. And I thought we would play better on defense, so that's why we punted. But very, very proud of the offensive line in pass protection. Last year we gave up 6 sacks to Virginia Tech. Saturday we had none, and that's tremendous progress in that area. Bryson Nesbitt, the guys that contributed at a very high level. Bryson Nesbitt continues to find seams, and he's a big target and he's fast. I'm absolutely amazed at what Josh Downs and Antoine Green have done after Antoine being out for as long as he was and coming back and being an impact, and Josh just amazes you every time he goes out there. After the game, Jeremy said, you know, Josh caught 8 balls for 100 and something yards, and I thought he caught 2 or 3. That's just who he is. So he's just such an impact player, and a guy that continues to amaze us that hadn't got the publicity he deserves is DJ Jones. He stepped up time and time again on pass protection and kept us from getting a sack. So he's so smart back there, and he does such a great job of protecting Drake. Defensive player of the game was DeAndre Boykins. He plays so hard, and he gets in the right place, and he was all over the field, and he chased it. And then we started trying to figure out who the best contributors were, and every coach in the meeting yesterday would say, my guys did good, and this guy did good, so we really had the whole defense. They were so impressive that they were all over the field and played so hard. And even if we messed something up, unlike in previous games, we had 10 guys chasing it, and they stopped and held them to like 2 explosives. So that was a big difference. Punt team was the player of the game with special teams. The Shield did a great job. They had 2 huge guys, and that's a thankless job, and our Shield in front of the punter did a tremendous job of standing up. So Jonathan Adorno, Malik McGowan, and Kevin Hester, nobody's probably ever given them the player of the game, so they'll be pumped, but they really stepped up. And you got to give credit to Noah Burnett. He did a good job kicking off, and there were a lot of kickoffs. And the 2 that he didn't get where they needed to be, we really covered well. So proud of those guys. Kamen Rucker stepped up when Ra was hurt and not on kickoff return, and he did an amazing job against their best cover guy. And Jalen Brooks and Jake Harklerobe really have done a tremendous job on special teams. 2 young walk-ons that have stepped up in numerous different positions and helped us because we're thin. And I think you're going to see that more with the transfer portal. When you lose some guys that are backing up that are on special teams, walk-on guys are going to have to step up and play. And those 2 did an outstanding job. And then Josh Downs had a 16-yard punt return, which is nearly 2 first downs when you think about field position. And field position does matter. So it was good that it was back out there and did a good job. The first one wasn't his fault when it hit the Virginia Tech player in the back, but we've talked about, you probably still should scream to help Tony. He was trying to keep the guy off of him. It's hard to have your eyes on the punt returner, know he's fair catching the ball, and still have a full-time fight on your hands out there with a gunner coming down the field. So, but we felt like that was handled okay. We shouldn't have caught the ball at the 6-yard line or 5-yard line on the other end. We got to let that one go. And probably Josh has missed some time there in special teams and hurt us. But kickoff coverage was great, and proud of the punt return for 16 yards. Offensively, when you look at what we've done, we've posted over 500 yards of offense 4 out of the 5 games. And in 2 of those games, we've really shut it down at midway through the 4th quarter with about 10 minutes left. Drake's 22 touchdowns. He's responsible for 19 passes and 3 runs are the most for any Carolina player in that 5-game stretch. And we've been playing a long time. So that's very, very impressive for him. The amazing thing to us, too, is he sees the field so well. 10 different guys caught balls. And that's hard to do. So he distributes the ball where it needs to be. We were 4 out of 5 in red zone touchdowns, and Virginia Tech was one of the leaders in the country in 3rd down defense and red zone defense. And the one we didn't make is when Drake got hurt, and we had the 1 ball tipped and knocked out of bounds when Jacoby came in. But impressed in those areas. The thing that we've got to continue to do better right now, we're not running the ball well enough on first downs, and we're not running the ball well enough when everybody knows we're going to run it. We would have trouble right now with a 4-minute offense. We'd have to throw it some because we're just not doing a good job. We're frustrated with it. We're not sure why. We keep looking at it. We squirted a long run, a couple of runs with both Caleb and Omarion on Saturday, but it's not consistent. We're still having the 1-yard run and the -2-yard run, and you just can't have that. And we've been fighting it, and we've got to continue to look at it, and it's just an area where we've got to get better. Defensively, we only gave up 273 yards. It's the fewest since last year's Georgia State game. We gave up 271 yards. We shut out Virginia Tech in the second half, and that's the first time we've shut out an opponent since Duke last year in the first half. The 10 points allowed were the fewest in a game since Duke last year. And we showed we can be effective for a whole game. We showed our coaches know what they're doing. We showed our players can play with confidence and play hard for 60 minutes. When our second team offense came in, our white team offense, they didn't do very well. We were disappointed in them, but when our second team defense came in, they still played well. They played hard. We played a whole lot of guys. So proud of those guys as we look at it. They only gave up 33 yards in the third quarter. And third quarter's been at Appalachian State. We did okay, but at Notre Dame, we didn't do well at all. So proud of the guys coming out of halftime and playing much better. Hopefully that'll carry over now. The confidence will carry over to next week, and we can start over instead of the nightmare quarters that we've had, and be like the team we were Saturday instead of the ones that we've been at times throughout the season. We held Virginia Tech to 1 out of 2 touchdowns in the red zone, which was much better. Not sure what that note is. But we obviously were better on defense. Special teams we just talked about. We feel like we're doing really well in special teams. We're still not winning games. We're still not blocking a punt. We're still not returning a kickoff for a touchdown. We're closer on punt return. So we'd like to see them step up and finish in a better place. A lot better with penalties. We had 4 penalties for 25 yards. Virginia Tech only had 3 for 22. I applaud the officials. Usually if they let you play and it was a clean game, that's what officials are supposed to do. So I thought those guys did a great job that were out there this weekend. So we outrushed the opponent. We outpassed the opponent. We led at halftime. We shut them out in the second half. We won the turnover battle 1-0. And that's why you win. So we got to continue in that model, and the guys understand how to win, what to do, and they've got to do it. We'll have our hands full with Miami, like Notre Dame. They're coming off a game where they weren't very pleased. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for us, so we'll see the team that played out at Texas A&M. We will not see the team that struggled last week. We've had 5 coaches fired in 5 weeks, which is not a good look for our business. I hate that for coaches. I hate that for families. And like we said, maybe the head coach, as embarrassing it is to be fired, gets paid a lot of money. The staff doesn't. You think of the people that work in the building. Even the assistant coaches usually have a contract. But you got 50, 60 staff members that do not and can't eat. And some of them are on 2 weeks' notice. So I hate to see people get fired. I hate to see it for the kids, the coaches, the families. It makes it really tough. And Paul Christ, I hired for a day. I talked to him about being the offensive coordinator at Texas, and he took the Pittsburgh job the next day. And he is a great man and did a tremendous job at Wisconsin. He's 67 and 26 and 3 top 15 finishes. So I can't imagine asking a man that's that good a football coach, that good a person, not to keep leading your team. So disappointed for the business that we've had so many turnovers so quickly during the season, but I think that's just what changed. Probably when coaches started making a lot more money, the expectations got a lot different, and coaches are being fired much faster. And that's just where we are in modern day. Questions?
Chris, you talked to Drake about going airborne, and when you saw him do it the other day, it was a little different than some of the other ones. What went through your mind immediately?
We've talked to him a whole lot, and he just needs to listen. He's trying to slide better. He is trying to step out of bounds better, but even sometimes throw the ball away. Don't hold it so long trying to make a play that you take a hit. But the one the other day where he's not going to score, so why leap? I mean, and he got the breath knocked out of him, so he was fine. But we need to quit doing that. I told him he's too important to our team not to take care of himself better. And there'll be times if it's 4th and 1, and If it's you're on the goal line, you got to score to win the game. I got it. Go for it, man. But you know, take a 3rd and 2 and step out of bounds. Don't leap, and you gotta love his competitiveness. You gotta love his nature. That's growing up with a bunch of boys in the house. He had to fight and compete, and he feels like he's competing. And I got it. He needs to do a better job taking care of himself.
He said it's instinct.
I agree.
So, how do you deal with the fact that it's instinct? So, it would take a little bit more, I guess, than just saying don't do that. And also, do you have a scenario in the past with one of your previous quarterbacks where you had something similar that you had to deal with?
Mostly quarterbacks are so competitive. That's why they're so good at what they do. And we've had problems with all of them. And in high school, a lot of the times they don't slide because they're big and strong enough they can run over people, and it's hard to teach them to slide because you get them hurt. So it's just something you have to work through. But just about every great quarterback we've had has had the same issues early. Sam wouldn't even think about stepping out of bounds or sliding when we first got here, and it took about 2 years. And we've just got to keep working with Drake. You know, if he was not hustling, or if it was something to hurt our team, he thinks he's competing and helping our team. So that's a really hard thing for him to understand. And I got it. I'm totally with him. I just want him healthy. So we'll just keep talking to him.
Mack, the last year's game against Miami, Van Dyke was still pretty new when he was a freshman. How have you seen him grow from that team last year to this point this season?
He grew in that 4th quarter, nearly beat us. So he's big, he's strong, he can run better than people think for sure, and he's got a great arm, not a good arm. So I think he's a future star.
The run game struggles you spoke about, I know we'll talk to Coach Longo about it in depth, but when you're sitting down with the coaching staff to go over it, what's that kind of look like? I'm trying to figure out what the issue is. Coach McDell in there, Larry Porter, Longo.
Ross, it's really been frustrating. We rushed for 160 yards and they rushed for 99, but we didn't. There's just too many negative plays, and that's it. When we get a run for 20 yards or 18 yards, I got it. That's good, but how many times can you waste a down now with modern day college football, as important as every play is? Why do you go for 4th downs when you've got way too many 3rd and longs? And Drake's saving us, but it's way too many 3rd and longs. We're not doing near. If we weren't scoring so many points, everybody'd be crazy raving about it, and we got to fix it. So what we're doing is we pull up every one of them. We sit down as a staff and we go over it, and it's kind of like our defense has been. This guy was too wide. Running back didn't hit it. So it's crazy. If it was simple, we would have already had it fixed. And when I leave here, I'll go upstairs after Phil gets back, and we'll spend another hour or two looking at 1st down runs to see what we're not getting done. And that's to me, that's really the only thing that we've got to fix offensively. Everything else is good.
Which running back stood out to you? Because you mentioned DJ Jones with great blitz pickups we saw in the press box, but of course Caleb at times looked good, and Hampton's been great so far.
I think the problem's been all of them have done some good things and nobody's taken over. And somebody needs to take over.
You're talking about the running game and someone needs to take over. So it's not, you said it's not simple, otherwise you'd have a solution.
Right.
Is it just the running backs, or is it also the blocking? I mean, or is it maybe that they're identifying the play too early?
You know, it's like the defense, unless we could take a video and sit in here and look at every play, there's a little something different on every one of them, and what they've got to do is just be more consistent with what we're doing, because it's you could say it might be the play call, but here's a good play call against a good defense, and then their guy whips our guy, or our guy steps too wide, or we are trying to do a better job of just knocking people off the line of scrimmage and getting to the second level with our linemen and getting into the linebackers, and we're just in some cases we're just not doing that very well.
So, go ahead.
Mack, your team had a tough loss against, and it was a tough week last week after the Notre Dame game. How did you get everybody to respond the way they did, to come out with the win the way you did?
We're really working hard to do what we said in preseason, unlike last year, and not be an up and down team, but to play and practice to a standard of excellence every day. And I mean, we try to be honest with them like I try to be honest with you, and I told them Notre Dame was better than we were. And they blocked us, and we got to get better. That's the standard we're trying to get to. So you can take it and grow after a game like that because you still you showed you had chances. We showed them where our lapses gave Notre Dame opportunities. And Charlie, I think that we grew from the Notre Dame game. If you can learn from a loss and get better from it, that's hard to do, and I'm not very good at that. But I do think we did a good job last week of showing them how close we were to being good in a lot of different areas. So if you'll just do your job better. And what we've done with the Virginia Tech game is we've taken all the things they did well and said, let's continue to do this. And here's things we still need to fix. It's not great, but I think, Jeremy, do we have 17 explosives to 2 or something? Yeah, so that was an area where it completely flipped because we've been giving up way too many explosives. And one explosive was a counter that slipped out that we missed a tackle at safety, and the other one was one of our defensive backs took his eyes off his man and let him have another wheel route down the boundary with a back. So at least we can go back and look at what 2 things we didn't do well that we need to improve instead of 15.
Mack, how much do you think that the players need to see that part? You're talking about the continuation that, like they had a good game against Virginia Tech, that stretches of good games before, that they can sustain it. Is that the next part for them to see, to believe that they can be the defense they showed last weekend?
Yes, Aaron, and on the road. We've had 2 wins on the road, but now we're going against the best team we've played on the road. So it's going to be hot. It's going to be hotter than it has been here the last couple of weeks. So can you continue to get better? You want to take your confidence and have it grow with your defense, and instead of being complacent, feeling pretty good about yourself. And that's been a problem for us since we've been here. And again, we've got a lot of really young players that are playing, so they'll be impressed by Miami and their speed and their ability, and so that it'll wake them up again this week. But we've got really a 2-week season left. We've got Miami on the road and Duke on the road, and then we've got another break. And with our 0 week, this will be a long year, and then we come back for 5 straight games. So we've just got to continue to play hard and play with confidence to get to where we want to be.
Mack, Bryson and Powers both had fathers that played in the NFL. Just from your experience and everything, does that normally, when you've had that kind of guidance, I guess, in your life early on, or at least know somebody that played at the highest level, how often does it translate to, not necessarily a future pro, but just a good football player?
See, I would think it would transfer because they grew up with it. It's kind of like a coach's kid. You look at Drake May, his dad played here and probably would have been an NFL quarterback if he hadn't hurt his shoulder. So Drake, every day of his life, he's been watching sports with his brothers and his dad and throwing a ball with his dad. And you're right, Bryson's dad was a great player, not only in college, but also in the NFL. And you go back, J.J. Jones' dad was a player in college. And so you just check off there's so many of the guys. Jeff Saturday's dad was a great player. Jeff's a really good player for us. He's small, so he doesn't play as much, but he competes, and he really helps us on the field with games. So you can go back and check Errol Hood's dad and just check the number of guys that have been raised in this business, and they get it, and they were at ball games their whole life, and it does make a difference, I think.
Mack, you're talking about telling Drake, as you have before, you need to protect yourself, you need to get down, we need you healthy. Like, what does he say to you when you tell him that? Like, what's the back and forth, the discussion like? I'm sure he's lobbying his case in some ways.
If I think one of our players may be really hurt, I'll usually walk out and make sure he's okay. because they're around me more than they're around even our doctors or trainers. So when I say, if I get out there, I can say, relax, take a deep breath, we're okay. Talk to us. You got to talk to the doctors and tell them what's wrong with you so we can find out what's wrong. So I've always tried to do that because there's too many kids that are uptight and they're worried about being hurt bad, and they think they may lose their career, and so it's a time where I can just say, hey, come on, we're good. We're good. Tell them what's wrong. And by the time I got to Drake, I got over there and he said, the breath's knocked out of me. It's like he's mad at me for walking over there. It was a long walk. And I usually go slow because I hope they'll get up and be okay before I get there. And I got up and I said, why don't you quit jumping? And he said, good, I got you, man. I'm good. So I don't know. Then he's pretty tall, but I did pat him on the head and say, well, let's be smarter than this. And then first thing he says, where's my helmet? So he wanted to get, I said, you can't go back in. You have to stay out of play. So, but you got to love his spirit, and you got to love how he competes. And again, it's better to have to pull him back than push him. So that's what it is. He's a great competitor, and he's had an unbelievable 5 weeks. I mean, he amazes me with some of the things he's done.
You talk a lot about inconsistency, and especially with the running game and defense. Do you feel like it's a matter of, all right, after X amount of time, it will just click, or maybe next year when they've got a year under their belts for this young team, or is it something else that fixes inconsistency?
Every coach that's standing before you today across the country is talking about inconsistencies. These are young people that have a life of inconsistency. And I think one of the reasons people love college football so much is it's not the pros. They make mistakes. And it's different guys that make mistakes every week. And I will never walk in here and say we played a perfect game, ever. Haven't in 34 years. So what we do is you try to fix the things that aren't working and keep the things that are going well. But if I'm honest with you, and I'm old enough to be honest, a lot of the young ones can't be, I walk in here and tell you what we did wrong every day, you wouldn't even notice half of it. But that's my job. I need to tell our team that and tell you guys that.
You gave a shout out to Bryson. Bryson, John, and Kamar were all here last season. What has taken that tight end room from good production to great production through the first 5 games this year?
I believe that John Lilly is one of the best coaches I've ever seen. He has the impact of our tight ends is so much different than it was when he came here a couple of years ago. The routes that we're running, the concepts that we have are different. So he's brought the NFL back to our team and our staff, and he has been a tremendous addition. And he plays them. It's amazing. He's kind of like Robert Gillespie was with those 2 running backs 2 years ago. You look up and they all play about the same number of plays, and he knows when to put them in and how to put them in, and he's done a masterful job of doing that without giving away plays. But I really think a lot of that credit has to go to him because we weren't throwing to the tight ends. We didn't have very good tight end concepts, and now we do, and he's the difference. So I think you have to give John Lilly credit for bringing those concepts to our staff, and give Phil Longo and the staff credit for listening and getting the ball to those guys, and all 3 of them are really good.
The emphasis that you talked about a lot in the spring and summer was scoring more touchdowns in the red zone, having a higher rate, was around 57% last year. I think it's 17 and 19 this year. You've articulated what happened in the other 2 where you didn't. Why are you guys having so much more success getting into the end zone when you get in the red zone?
I think it's probably because we've put so much emphasis on it. And we all know it's there, but it's different in saying we need to score touchdowns and spending a whole lot of your practice time scoring touchdowns and trying to stop people from scoring touchdowns. Same thing with 4th downs. I think we're 9 out of 12 on 4th downs. That's 9 times that we haven't punted or kicked a field goal that probably led to touchdowns. I haven't looked at it closely enough. But that's just a different philosophy that we've had. Let's don't talk about scoring touchdowns. Let's work on scoring touchdowns more than we have in the past. And if you did it the amount of practice time that you're supposed to, based on, like a lot of people take the number of goal line plays that you'll have during a game, and that's the number that they work on during the week. Well, let's double that. Let's triple that. Let's get really good at this, because this is something that we know we've got to do. And we did it live, and we did it against each other. So it also builds your playlist, because now Gene and Phil have a playlist that they've actively had to work on against each other during practice. So it's an expanded list that we have more plays in those areas now than just a few to look at. So I thought Phil showed great confidence in Jacoby Criswell coming off the bench and trying to throw a fade on the first time he's in there. Again, we have to discuss that today. I'm not sure on 3rd down and 2 or 3rd down and 3, I wouldn't have run it or moved the quarterback instead of, he didn't even have time to loosen up. And that's the only time we really haven't scored in that area. But I do believe that emphasis on 4th downs, because we work on 4th downs now all the time. Emphasis on 1-minute offense. We've worked on it more this spring than we've worked on it since we've been here. And that's an obsession of mine. 1 minute is so important anymore. And we had one of the best 1-minute drives for 28 seconds I've ever seen. I mean, that's it might have changed the game. It's who knows whether that momentum going into halftime changed what they had on. They had a 4th and 10 that they made by 1 inch or 2 inches, whatever it was, and I thought it was a good call. But they score 28 seconds left. And instead of what we did against Notre Dame's hand it off and run up the middle with a draw play that got no yards, what the heck, let's go. Let's go try to score and be aggressive, and we work on it all the time. We got a great thrower. We got really good receivers, tight ends. Let's go for it. And I thought that was a huge change.
This might be a little in the weeds. I can almost hear you saying that's what Gene will be in here for, but
That's what Gene will be in here for.
okay, thank you.
Why do you all ask them to come in? See, that's maybe I should stay here and listen to them.
Well, you can if you want to, obviously. I wanted to ask you about the 3rd down package that you guys have been using, and it looked like you got some good things out of that group Saturday, and just from the standpoint of getting Cowan in there, you're getting Kamen Rucker in there, you're getting Malachi Hamrick, just being able to get more guys in there and have them contribute. I mean, I would think that's something you have to like. Just what are you seeing there? And I would assume you like how that's sort of developing for you, your defense.
Yes, Adam. You try to get your best pass rushers, and if you can, you put them in a package, and it gives you a chance to play a Malachi Hamrick. It gives you a chance to play Jacoby Cowan when maybe he wouldn't be out there as much. And Jacoby's got 4 years. I mean, he's a young guy that we need to get on the field, and it keeps you fresh. It lets them start in an area as such with a package, so they can be starters even though they're not, quote, starters. It gets us a lot of fast people on the field. We've got to be careful. We've been so poor against the run that when we put dime on the field, and that's what it is, if it's 3rd down and 5, they're still going to try to run the ball. So we got to be smart and not get crazy. It may be better 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10. But Jacoby Cowan had a sack, and that was really cool. But it also lets you play more guys for the transfer portal. Also, very honestly, and you need to have guys on the field, because at some point, if they're not playing, they're going to come in here and say, I'm out. And it may not be a starter, and it may not kill you, but it kills your depth. And that's what we're fighting. I mean, we had, with Cheeks and Rara out Saturday, Deuce came in and made some plays, and that's good because he's going to have to play now. And we got to get him ready to play. So we can't say he's a freshman. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. But I really feel like that's the biggest thing. You're looking at how many guys on the field. One of the things you have to look at that I've fought with the coaches about some is when you put that package in, you're taking Power out, and he's one of your best players. So there's that balance of getting pass rushers and taking an outstanding player out. So those are things that we look at all the time. I do feel like, without question, that our secondary played better Saturday than we've played by far. Tony had some good coverage of deep ball. Storm fell down once on the RPO early in the game that was an explosive. So I guess there were three. I don't know why. I guess the running back wasn't explosive. Probably the run and the RPO were the two explosives at the first of the game.
One run over 10 yards and one pass over 15 that they got. That was it.
Yeah, and those were the two explosives. And I think it was the counter play on the run where the safety missed the fit, and it was the RPO where Storm fell down. But that helped. But we've said we all cuss the defensive backs. They got the hardest job in the building, and they're like quarterbacks. They're they're isolated. Corners covering Josh Downs or Antoine Green by himself, so we have to get pressure. And I was disappointed. There was another time where I thought we had him sacked, and he scrambled and made it a 3rd and 1 where we could have had a 12-yard sack. So we're doing a better job of getting there now, and now we got to get them down. Quarterbacks running are absolute killers in college football. You think how many times Drake's made plays with his feet this year? The first series, we have 2 really bad plays. The third one where he can't find anybody open, he just runs for 10 yards and steps out of bounds. So the athletic quarterback that can move around is giving people nightmares. Same thing with the first 3rd and 8. Where we had stopped Notre Dame in the first quarter, and then their quarterback scrambles for the first down. It's just a killer. And if you take a spy and put him on the quarterback, you're taking a guy out of coverage and you're taking a guy out of the pass rush. So it's an expensive guy to give up if you decide you're going to have to do that. And then he's got to be good enough to tackle your guy one-on-one in space, and that's not easy to do either.
Mack, what are the differences you've seen in Miami now that Mario Cristobal has kind of implemented his scheme?
Mario hired such an experienced staff. Everybody hired's really good. They ran around. Can you imagine having Charlie Strong and Kevin Steele in the same defensive meeting rooms? I mean, that's 2 of the best to ever do it. And 2 guys that have been head coaches as well as top defensive coordinators in the country. Gaddis coming from Michigan. They just played in the college football playoff. So I'm really, really impressed with what he's put together down there. And like us, we had some new coaches. He had a whole new staff. So they will be much better after reevaluating those first 4 games and having a week off to prepare. So I'm sure they fixed some things that a new staff was trying to get on the same page with, and we'll be catching them like Notre Dame. Notre Dame was mad over the 2 games they hadn't played well since they played Ohio State. So we'll get a new Miami team. We'll get a different Miami team, and that's fair. And it's a road game, which we've done better this year, but still we haven't been great on the road. So that'll be another new test for us.
Taking a look at Drake May, he's had an outstanding season, and one of the things that really sticks out is he's been able to connect on a lot of deep balls, and do so even when he misses, he's not really putting the ball in danger like we might have seen for some freshman quarterbacks. How much do you think that the redshirt year from last year is going to help in just adding that maturity to him and making sure that he doesn't make those mistakes on the downfield passes?
Yeah, I think it's a huge help. I would say 3 things. Phil Longo has proven that he knows what he's doing with quarterbacks before he got here, and with Sam, and now with Drake and Jacoby, because they're both really good. Secondly, Sam helped him so much with just watching video and being over here together, and both those guys grew by watching Sam, his work ethic and how he competes. And then thirdly, we said Drake grew up with it. He grew up with his dad watching football every day, being in camps, being how to taught to throw when he was really, really young. And I would think the fourth thing is it was so valuable that both Jacoby and Drake got to, quote, start a game against Wofford last year because they both had a full half, and they knew they were both going to have a full half, and that does matter. It puts you under the pressure. It puts you in game type situations where Coach Longo can sit and say, I like this, we can't do this, and here's why. And the fact that he's been here a year and a half matters as well, and he had to compete for the job because Sam was here since January and had to walk out there and play against South Carolina on the road in his opening ball game, and Miami here in his second one, where Drake had a year and a half to watch that. So he's not as much like a true freshman or even redshirt freshman because he's played enough that has really helped him. The other thing I'll applaud, the NCAA making the 4-game rule has really helped freshmen. We got to play a lot of guys who will redshirt Saturday just to let them play, and why not? The game's over and you're having them stand over there and they can't get in the game. Let them have a little fun. Let them have the experience of walking out there and playing in a game. So I know it's uncomfortable for some that, like Jonathan Kim decided not to play anymore after 4 games, and that's uncomfortable for coaches because you never know if a guy's just going to quit. But I do think it's a great rule. It's a better rule. There's more positives with the rule for kids to be able to play and have some fun than not. I would even like to see it expanded to a point that you could also play in a bowl game and not cost you and give them the opportunity for 5 games because of opt-outs and injuries at the end of the year and transfer portal, and it would make it safer and still give kids a chance to participate in a bowl game and not cost them a full year.
Mack, were you disappointed that the trick play didn't work? I mean, I don't know how it looked when you went back and looked at it, but for us just watching it live, it looked like you had the convoy down there to lead Drake. I mean, we might have walked into the end zone. I don't know. Like, what were your thoughts?
The worst thing, and Phil will come up, the worst thing is it was a walk-in touchdown and it didn't work. We didn't execute it right, so we wasted it. Right. And you're not going to use those things very often, so when you use it, it better work. And I did think, and I didn't see it at the game, and it's why I can do better on Monday than I do after the games, because some things you just miss. The throw from Drake wasn't very good to Pesor, to Kobe, so he had to reach for it. And then to do that and stop and set your feet and look downfield at the tight end and then turn and throw it back, and there was a defender in the way. He had to throw it over his head. So there was a lot going on for a redshirt freshman receiver at one time. But I do think I probably could have scored on it if I'd caught it. It was, and I don't like you laughing, but it's true.
Shout out those old running back skills.
Huh?
Shout out those old running back skills.
Yes, no question. I might have gotten hurt. I might have pulled up, but I would have had a chance. Anything else? I would not have jumped over anybody. I couldn't have. But thank you for thinking that might be a question. I'd like to think it was an option, but not. Got it? All right. We'll see you Wednesday.